In fact, WNBA players are not underpaid at all. They are, if anything, vastly overpaid.
Is Matt Walsh right? Are WNBA players really overpaid? Or is he just stirring up drama for clicks? At first glance, it might sound absurd, but the numbers behind his claims are raising eyebrows across the sports world, from Walsh declaring that Caitlin Clark is the only player worth big money, to the league's staggering financial losses. This controversy is a wildfire, and we're about to break it down.
The WNBA and its players are closing in on an opt-out date for their current collective bargaining agreement. The CBA is essentially an agreement that sorts out what percentage of money goes to the players and at the end of the day decides what their salaries will be. And if the players union does opt out, the current CBA, which was set to expire in 2027, will still be in effect next season. So the two sides have a year to come to an agreement.
Let's start with the WNBA's bold gamble. The players recently opted out of their current collective bargaining agreement. In plain terms, they're telling the league to pay up or risk a work stoppage. It's a high-stakes move, especially for a league already grappling with significant financial challenges. The question is, can they afford this gamble?
If the players and the league can't come to an agreement, then a lockout will happen.
These athletes aren't just asking for a small bump in pay. They're calling for a full-scale overhaul, higher salaries, better benefits, and improved facilities. We're talking about a complete reset of their working conditions. If no new deal is reached by the end of the 2025 season, a full-scale strike could shut the league down.
Opting out isn't just about bigger paychecks. It's about claiming our rightful share of the business we built, improving working conditions, and sharing a future where the success we create benefits today's players and generations to come. We're not just asking for a CBA that reflects our value. We're demanding it.
Now let's talk hard numbers. The top WNBA salary is roughly $250,000, a figure that pales in comparison to the millions NBA rookies raking right out of the draft. Star players like Breanna Stewart are advocating for the league to allow million-dollar contracts, which would represent a seismic leap from where salaries are now.
Also chimed in and said that she would love to see teams have the ability to have $1 million player.
Rees, the WNBA's shiny new media rights deal, $200 million a year from Disney, Amazon Prime, and it's a game-changing agreement. But players don't want to sit around waiting for that money to trickle down. They want their slice of the pie right now. Kelsey Plum, one of the league's most vocal stars, summed it up perfectly.
You're not asking to get paid what the men get paid. We're asking to get paid the same percentage of revenue shared.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Got it. So that's a huge misconception.
That's a huge misconception.
Got it. Okay,
For sure. Yeah, because every video is like, oh, this person gets paid this person gets paid that, right?
So I want to be really clear about that. Like, I don't think I should get paid the same as LeBron.
Right.
But the percentage of revenue, like, for example, they sell my jersey in Mandalay Bay, I don't get a dime.
You don't get any money from jersey sales?
This push for better pay has sparked a heated debate. Some fans are rallying behind the players, calling these demands long overdue, but others are skeptical, arguing that a league that struggles to turn a profit simply can't afford higher salaries. Matt Walsh never want to shy away from controversy, fan the flames by suggesting that WNBA players are already overpaid, given the league's financial losses, and that's where things get messy. The numbers don't lie. The WNBA is bleeding money even with the new viewership deal. Profitability is still a distant dream. Walsh's controversial take has added fuel to an already blazing fire, with critics questioning whether the league can justify any increases at all. One thing is clear: the WNBA is at a crossroads, and the stakes couldn't be higher. Stay with us as we unpack the layers of this explosive debate.
Keeping in mind, salaries were going to go up after the new media rights deal started, and they got a little while before that starts. It's not going to be next year, but they couldn't wait for that. That media rights deal is sizable. All right. The league is set to possibly pull a profit for the first time ever because of that media rights deal.
Not going to believe this, but the WNBA just reported a staggering $40 million loss for this season. Let that sink in for a moment. $40 million down the drain in just 1 year. And here's the reality. It's not a new problem. The league has been hemorrhaging cash for almost 3 decades. That's right, the WNBA has never turned a profit since its inception in 1997. The WNBA is set to lose $40 million bucks. Now, I know what you're thinking. Wait a minute. What about all the Caitlin Clark hype? Weren't there Record-breaking crowds and TV ratings this season. And you're absolutely right, from packed arenas to viral moments, it's like the WNBA is living in two entirely different realities. On one hand, there's incredible buzz and a growing fan base. On the other, it's a financial sinkhole that has NBA owners scratching their heads and their wallets.
WNBA is set to lose $40 million.
Speaking of NBA owners, they're not staying quiet about this anymore. These guys have been footing the bill for years, pouring millions into a league that seems to devour cash faster than it generates revenue. And now their patience is wearing thin. Can you really blame them? They've been the financial backbone of the WNBA, and despite their investment, the league continues to operate in the red.
With Caitlin Clark, even with Angel Reese, the league lost $40 million this year. $40 million. All right, keep that in mind. So this league is not operating on a profit.
Leading the charge is none other than James Dolan, owner of the New York Knicks. Say what you will about Dolan's reputation in the sports world, but when he starts asking questions, people pay attention. He's reportedly pressing NBA Commissioner Adam Silver for some hard answers about the WNBA's financial situation. And trust me, when one NBA owner gets vocal, the rest tend to follow suit. This isn't just frustration. This is a full-on demand for transparency.
And NBA investors are actually starting to get irritated. It's about time.
So what's really going on behind the scenes? Turns out the NBA has been playing a game of financial hide and seek for years. They've quietly absorbed the WNBA's massive losses into their own balance sheets, making it almost impossible to get a clear picture of just how bad things really are.
And of all owners to actually be sort of a hero on this, it is James Dolan, one of them, of course, from the Knicks, that is asking a lot of questions right now, and evidently a lot of other owners are sort of happy that he's taking this bullet.
Naturally, this has raised more than a few eyebrows. NBA owners are fed up with writing blank checks and are now calling for full transparency. They want to know exactly where their money is going. And who could blame them? It's as if they've been investing in a black hole with no accountability. And now they want to see the receipts.
So the NBA provides the WNBA with an annual endowment of over $15 million. This financial support helps to cover various operating costs for WNBA teams, including facilities, travel, marketing, and administration. As of 2023, the NBA owns 50% of the WNBA, while the 12 WNBA teams collectively own the other 50%.
Here's the part that's blowing everyone's minds. The WNBA's entire business model is built on NBA support. That's not just supplemental funding, it's lifeline funding. Without the NBA's millions propping it up year after year, the league wouldn't even be able to keep the lights on. And it's got a lot of people wondering, both inside and outside the league, whether the setup is sustainable in the long run. How much longer will the NBA be willing to subsidize a league that's consistently losing money? But here's where the story takes an even wilder turn. In the midst of all this financial turmoil, WNBA players are demanding more money. That's right, players are pushing for higher salaries, better benefits, and improved facilities. It is all while the league is bleeding cash. It's like asking for a raise when your company is on the verge of bankruptcy. Bold, absolutely risky, even more so. So what's driving these demands? Are the players seeing the writing on the wall, or are they genuinely convinced that higher paychecks will be the magic bullet that turns the league around? Either way, this is shaping up to be one of the most pivotal moments in the WNBA's history. Will the players' gamble pay off, or is the league heading for a financial iceberg? It can't avoid one thing's for sure: the stakes have never been higher.
This league, they're getting fed up. You're seeing that headline. We'll lose $40 million. NBA investors are growing impatient.
Speaking of high-stakes gambles, let's dive into the chaos that Matt Walsh just unleashed. The man isn't holding back, claiming WNBA players are overpaid. A statement so incendiary, it's making Caitlin Clark's headlines look tame. Walsh isn't just saying salaries are inflated. He's suggesting the league shouldn't even exist in its current form. Bold, absolutely controversial. Without a doubt. Now, before you dismiss him entirely, let's look at the numbers, because Walsh is polarizing as he might not be entirely wrong. The WNBA hasn't turned a profit in its nearly 30-year existence. Compare that to the NBA, a financial juggernaut, pulling in billions annually. The disparity is so vast, it's like comparing a lemonade stand to Amazon. And where does all this money come from the NBA? For decades, the league has been funneling millions into the WNBA to keep it afloat. Think of it like a life support system, with the NBA footing the bill for salaries, marketing, and even day-to-day operations. Walsh has called this out bluntly, stating, if a business hasn't been profitable for this long, maybe it's time to pull the plug.
These women are getting paid salaries to play for a league that, economically speaking, shouldn't exist. You don't have to be a financial whiz to understand that losing money for 30 years is usually a recipe for bankruptcy. The only reason the women's league stays open is that the NBA subsidizes it.
Harsh, absolutely. But here's where things get complicated. While some fans are furious, accusing Walsh of misogyny and stirring up drama for clicks, others are quietly agreeing. After all, how long can a league survive when its expenses vastly outweigh its revenue? Walsh is forcing people to ask tough questions. And it's a conversation the WNBA probably doesn't want to have.
The WNBA has existed for nearly 30 years. It has never once turned a profit. According to WSN.com, a sports betting site, the WNBA generates about $60 million in revenue. For the record, an article in Vox claims that the revenue is in the $100-200 million range, which I find dubious. But either way, the NBA, by contrast, brings in $10 billion of revenue with something like $3 billion in profits. So that means that the NBA generates more than 150 times the revenue of the WNBA.
Enter Caitlin Clark, the rookie sensation, who's single-handedly changing the narrative. The league has pinned its hopes on her banking on the Caitlin effect to bring new energy, ratings, and most importantly, revenue. And let's be real, it's working. Clark's games are must-watch TV. Her jerseys are flying off the shelves, and she's attracting new fans by the thousands. But not everyone in the WNBA is thrilled.
Only reason the women's league stays open is that the NBA subsidizes it. Every year, the men's league hands millions of dollars to the women. And why do they do that? Well, so that everyone can feel good about the fact that a women's league exists.
Here's the twist. Instead of embracing Clark as a savior, some WNBA players and officials are treating her like an outsider. It's almost baffling. Rather than celebrating her arrival and the influx of fresh fans she's brought with her, there's been a palpable resistance. Players have openly criticized the new audience, calling them bandwagon fans who don't understand the league's history or culture. The irony, these so-called bandwagon fans are exactly what the WNBA needs to survive. The tension is hard. To ignore, some WNBA players see Clark as a symbol of everything they fought against, the spotlight on one individual instead of the collective. But let's be honest, the league's financial struggles don't leave room for pride, with the WNBA staring down another season of losses, alienating new fans. Or worse, the one player who can save the league feels like self-sabotage.
Although the WNBA generates $60 million in revenue, or even if it's $100 million, let's say, it makes no profit. These women are getting paid salaries to play for a league that, economically speaking, shouldn't exist. You don't have to be a financial whiz to understand that losing money for 30 years is usually a recipe for bankruptcy.
And guess what? All this drama unfolds against the backdrop of players demanding higher pay, as the league bleeds money. Players are pushing for a complete overhaul of salaries, benefits, and facilities. It's an admirable fight. But here's the question Walsh and many others are asking: how can you demand more when the league can't even break even?
This league is going to make some money now, all right? But again, what happens if you push all these new fans back out? What does that do for your media rights deals? Because they only got the new media rights deals because of one player. I mean, singular, let's be honest. It's Caitlin Clark. She boosted all the ratings. She got the popularity.
The WNBA is at a crossroads. On one side, there's the old guard resistant to change and skeptical of new faces. On the other, there's Caitlin Clark, a player who could redefine the league if given the chance. The question now is whether the WNBA will embrace this new era or crumble under the weight of its own resistance.
And if they do, that means the salaries are likely to rise, which would eat into the potential $60 million for the 2026 profit by the league. The $100 million in television revenue, turning the projected $40 million loss into a $60 million gain. Quote, we have not even getting any money from the WNBA expansion fee.